Merry time of day. It is me again, back to share another impressively simple recipe that makes for a good last minute gift idea if you still don't know what to give certain people. And that is a whipped shea butter. This is my jar of shea butter and it is from Ghana in this case. So thank you, women and people of Ghana, for making this exceptional thing. I love using this as an all-around moisturizer on my hands, on my feet, if I need cold cream on my face. Like, it's very versatile. And if you've lived in cold climates, you might already know, but if you wear very water-based lotions in winter, it can actually cause you to get frostbites faster, because then the water left on your skin in the lotion will freeze and that'll hurt your hands. But when you have a purely fat-based moisturizer, or at least mostly fat-based moisturizer, that is less of a problem, since fat does not freeze at the same temperatures as water at all. I'm not a cosmetic chemist. This is, like, Javanford could give a lot more details about all the science of this. This is just a very simple, all-fat shea butter and some other oils, whipped shea butter that I quite enjoy. It's not something you would want to leave in a hot car, or, because when they add waters and emulsifiers to lotions we buy in the shop, that is so they stay stable across a wide temperature ranges that may shop be exposed to during summer or winter, in a warm truck on a hot summer day. It needs to be able to go from quite high temperatures to quite low and still stay a nice spreadable texture. So this moisturizer will melt again if you leave it in a very hot place, and then you just have to whip it again, or you can try to apply it as is, but it'll be a little less spreadable when you don't have all the air bubbles whipped into it. But yeah, this is my go-to moisturizer for most things. I also give it to friends. I have a lot of friends with very sensitive skin and some with eczemas, and they like it, so I don't add vitamin E either, which is commonly added to help the fats from going rancid, like it'll stay shelf stable for longer. But in this case, it really is just oil and whipped together into a fluffy texture, and we use it up before it goes rancid, and then I just make a new small batch. Alright, so as I was researching this, just check my ratios and stuff, it's a little bit different if you are in hot climates than in cold climates, or also difference between summer and winter. You might want to have slightly different concentrations of the solid shea butter and the liquid oil that you're adding. It should be an oil that you don't mind feeling the feeling of against your skin. But yeah, we're just going to start with our shea butter, and we're gonna use a new method that I haven't used before, and that is, I came across a blog that talked about whipping shea butter cold rather than melting everything and mixing them and then cooling them to room temperature and whipping it then. So this recipe just recommended just cutting the shea butter into chunks, whipping it, and then adding oils as needed until the texture is as the person whipping it desires, which makes it a lot easier for us to get a good ratio for whatever weather we are having, whatever we live in the world, because you're working with it's cold rather than mixing, melting, and hoping your ratios are correct for when they solidify again. And I don't know if you can see this, but the shea butter is quite easy to work with. Like, the butter knife goes in quite easily. So if our global economy fails and I can no longer get shea butter regularly, I shall be quite sad, as I find it quite excellent for my skin. There we go. I won't be too precious about scraping this jar, because whatever is left after I've scooped out jars for my friends, I just put the rest in this and that becomes my portion. So everything will be used, don't you worry. And then we start just whipping it. Let's give that a try. That was fairly cooperative. It's still grainy though, because it's just shea butter, at least my experience. I'm going to add a little leftover drop that I have of sweet almond oil. This is what the original bottle was 30 milliliters, so this is less than 10, probably about 5. We're gonna add all of it, so this precious thing does not go rancid. It's already getting a lot better. I think we're gonna add a little bit of, yeah, it's still quite grainy, so you need to whip it a bit more. But I'm gonna add a little bit of olive oil just because it is ever so good at soothing sensitive skin. And again, we're not actually giving this a long shelf life, so it's okay that olive oil goes rancid pretty fast because we make this in small batches that gets used before they go bad. The good thing about trying this method first is that if it doesn't work, we can always just melt it as usual. If the graininess does not subside. But let me just scrape down the sides that are mostly shea butter that hasn't been mixed yet, so that we can get everything nice and homogeneous. Yeah, it still is a little bit grainy. Let me check how long the method recommended to keep whipping it for. All right, keep whipping until it works. So let's try for another, at least another 10-15 minutes. It's better, so let's see. I don't know, friends, it still feels fairly grainy. I think after 15 minutes of running this, I'm gonna go back to my tried and true. Just melt it first and then let it reset with all the oils mixed in. Yes, sweetie. I had hoped the graininess would be gone by now, but alas. Seems we have to melt it all the way. I think we can pop off the heat now. Do the rest on just the residual heat. There we go. And I'm just going to sort of whip it a bit with the attachment so that we can get off this grainy solid shea butter and just sort of melt it into the rest that is melted. There we go. Nice and clean and ready for next batch. Now we're just going to pop this in the fridge until it has set again. Let's see what we have. I think this is actually pretty darn decent. It has solidified, but still soft enough to whip. Yeah, there's a little bit of liquid left. Excellent. That is looking so much better already. Let's do one more scrape of the sides, and I think she's just about there. There we go, I think. Nice, light, creamy whipped shea butter for you. Great for gifts if you have friends with sensitive skin. Although you might want to test first, like if they like this kind of texture. I have spouse does not like shea butter at all. They prefer lotions that absorb really fast into the skin, whereas I really dislike those because I feel like I have this chemical film on my hand all day, so I much prefer the feeling of this. Now smooth and creamy, but ultimately very oily and rich, because I mean it is just oils for my hands. And if you wanted to add essential oils or anything like that, any scents you want to add, you can add a few drops at this stage. I wouldn't add it before you melt the shea butter because you might lose a lot of that, all the scents that you're adding. But this is going to a lot of people with sensitive skin, so I shall not be adding anything else. And I just wanted to add that one of the friends who is getting this lotion is intending to use it as a paw salve for their feline companion who gets very dry paws in wintertime, sadly. So this lotion, without essential oils, without any additives, is about as safe as other neutral oils are to cats. That is to say, general advice is that they shouldn't have too much, so like apply very, very sparingly. But this should be a safe option if you have feline friends and dog friends who might require a little bit of moisturizing in certain areas, especially when it's really cold in winter. But yeah, you shouldn't give them too much. That's the general advice that I can find, but a little bit could be nice. Or you just want them to be used to you handling their paws so that the vet has an easier time if they need to check on things or when you need to cut their claws or what have you. And then it is just a matter of trying the best we can to get this into the pots without smooshing out all the air that we have just stirred into it. Can be a little bit finicky, but a piping bag might work better, but I like to not change containers too many times since that so significantly affects your yield, whether it be chemistry or homemade lotions and what have you. Let's add a little more to this one, why not? This friend who gets the biggest tub uses it for their psoriasis on their feet, and apparently, according to them, it works better than other stuff they've found at the pharmacy. So, I don't know. I am not against pharmacy modern cosmetics at all. There's a lot of them that can work really well. But if you haven't found anything that really works, or you're curious to see if this might work for you, I mean, whip up a small batch and see if you like it. You can always use it for other things instead if it turns out that it isn't your jam, which is completely fair. So I think it's a lot of people just have to test and see, because some people prefer one kind of lotion over another. But yeah, this is my go-to. I use this all year round really, but especially in winter when you're in and out of really cold climates and your hand gets really dry and cracked and cold and painful. This is gold. And that's it. It's as easy as that. It's a really simple recipe, if you want to call it that, or method. But yes, we went from 1 jar of shea butter and we ended up with 3 more jars in addition to the 1 jar that we started with. So at least doubled in size, which is very nice. So if you can get a nice jar of unscented shea butter, I recommend you give this a go. If you have already fixed all the presents that you need this gifting season, or if this is not a high gifting season for you, I still recommend you give it a go. Maybe you make a tiny batch, try it out, see if you like it, find something new. I now have a bowl full of whips and spatula and things that shall be my moisturizer for the next couple of days, because why would I just wash it off? I can just use it. But yeah, that's gonna be that for today. Very short little video. I hope you don't mind. And thank you as always to the patrons who help us, help me make small little videos like this for you. And I hope you are not being too stressed this last month of the year. And I shall see you next time. Hello. Small but important addendum to this little procedure. I woke up this morning and checked on the shea butters, and they had seized up a lot harder than I would prefer them to be for easy spreadability. So I actually ended up scraping everything out of the jars again and forgot to film it because I was just in fix it mode. Add a substantial amount more oil, you know, as much as the ratios that I found online suggested. Shocker. But on a positive side, we now have, as you can see, about twice the amount of jars whipped and filled, and the texture is a lot softer and fluffier. Let's see if I can... I didn't even film how seized up it was, did I? But it's nice and soft and easy to use. So yeah, this is also an addendum to myself because I don't make this very often. I should really write down exactly what I do so that I don't forget, but here at least is an addendum to myself and to you out there if you're still watching. Let the bowl, after you've whipped it the first time it's been in the fridge, let it sit at room temperature overnight and see if you still like the texture. And if not, whip it up again, add more oil as needed, see how it works, try again, and just sort of let it sit until it properly sets again. Not just to room or fridge temperature, but actually leaving it for multiple hours. But yeah, I hope you have a nice rest of your day.